This is my latest digital product, an aesthetic magazine template where every image is AI generated. And I named it The Prompt because instead of lorem ipsum, the text is the actual prompt that created each image. I designed it, I sell it in my shops, and in this video I show you exactly how I made it so you can create digital products the same way that I do. I started with the idea to design a magazine that feels like something you would pick up from a coffee table, something minimalistic, with lots of white space and photography that takes center stage on each spread. But instead of using stock photography and filler text, every image in this magazine is generated with AI. And the text on each page is the actual prompt that created that image. So this unique concept allows the user to edit the template with their own content, but also use the AI generated images in other projects, learn from the AI prompts, or just print it as is and use it as decoration. Before I started with the design of the magazine, I generated the images with AI. And I took most of my inspiration from images from magazines that I have laying around in the house. And I look for photos with interesting scenes and compositions, and I word them in my own writing style. And it doesn't matter what type of lighting the original image has, because I always add my own lighting style. So I asked the AI model to add a warm lighting from hard direct sunlight, and this ensures that the magazine has a consistent warm toned look and feel. I also like to add shadow overlays to my images to make them more interesting and add depth. And I do this by re-uploading a generated image to higgsfield and prompt for a realistic shadow on top of the scene. And I leave a lot of the creativity up to AI when it comes to the shadows. And I generate multiple images at once so I have enough to choose from. Once I have a generated image that I'm happy with, I upload it to Gemini and I ask it to reverse engineer a prompt. I basically ask it to create a detailed text prompt that would generate a similar looking image. And this is what becomes the prompt that I add next to each image in the magazine. I don't want to add a short prompt that leaves a lot up to AI, so by reverse engineering a prompt, I get a very detailed prompt that will consistently generate similar looking images. Once I have a collection of images and the matching prompts, I start working on the design of the magazine itself. I use Adobe InDesign for this, as this is still the industry standard for professional printing projects. I started this design with a very lucky find, which was the newsreader font. I truly loved working with this font and it has become one of my favorite fonts instantly. For body text, especially in print work, I prefer serif fonts as it gives a very classic look, which I personally really like. And newsreader is not only free, but is also a variable font which can be very useful for adjusting the thickness with precision. I paired it with a more modern style font, the Montserrat, also available for free, and this one is one of my go-to fonts because of how symmetrical and clean it is. I always style Montserrat with all caps, generous letter spacing and a lighter gray to clearly distinguish it as a secondary typeface. I use a 12 by 17 column grid, but what grid you use really doesn't matter as long as it gives you enough options for aligning your designs without making it too dense and giving your design a cluttered look. And speaking of cluttered, I'm always trying to keep my designs clean by adding lots of white space, and with a project where the images and the fonts are so beautiful, there's not much else needed to make the design look good except for space to let it breathe. I try to let the images take center stage by letting them be the main object on each spread. And I'm not sure where I heard this quote, but it represents the idea of minimalism in design perfectly. Minimalism isn't about removing things that you love, it's about removing the things that distract you from the things that you love. I used to spend hours browsing for stock sites looking for photos that almost match the theme that I wanted, but now I create them with AI and they are always in high quality and match exactly what I had in mind. Most design tutorials end when the design part is done, but if you actually want to sell this as a digital product, the design part is only half the work and packaging it as an actual product is equally as important. And I try to add as much value for the customer as possible, and this is what can persuade potential customers to choose your products instead of competitors' products, and it also gives them a much better experience after purchasing. For example, I add paragraph styles so users can easily edit the fonts to match their own branding. I also offer both a US letter and an A4 size design, and I do this because I have a worldwide target audience and printing companies in different areas may have different printing specifics. I make sure to include IDML files for users that work with older versions of Adobe InDesign or open the files with the free Affinity software. And finally, I add an easy to follow help document and set up a clear folder structure. Another very important thing to focus on are the product images. For digital products, mockups can really make or break a successful product in my experience, and I don't just use it to make products look good, but they're also a great way of showing what features are included. For example, I like to let potential customers know that they can also export it as an ebook by showing a mockup of a tablet. And I also let people know that there are two sizes included with this clear side-by-side image of both sizes. And I vary between product images that have a clear message and mood visuals that show what the actual result may look like. And I end my product images with a clear overview of all spread designs to make sure that there is no misconception of what's included. I'm using the mockups of my own magazine mockup kit because I want a minimalistic style to let the template design itself take center stage. And with these mockups I can easily adjust the lighting and colors to make it match the aesthetic of the template. Now with AI image generators becoming so high quality, you can also create the mockups yourself. I actually created multiple videos on how I make professional mockups with AI tools, and I'll leave links to these videos in the description in case you're interested. This has easily become my favorite magazine template in my shop. It has become a personal showcase of my design style and everything that I like about designing. It has lots of white space, beautiful images with warm color tones and a touch of AI. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and I love to hear your thoughts on the process and suggestions for future videos. I'll make sure to read and reply to all comments. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next one.